What's up, YouTube? This is Red Devilosa from Red Devilosa Reviews. Marvel's First Family is about to head onto the big screen for the fourth time, and after some attempts that have been just fantastic, maybe they'll get it right this time?
Hey, clobbering time.
Well, the bar is low, so they can only go up from here, right? Well, let's just give this a shot. Also, John Walker video in the works. Given that I expect the true casting of the Fantastic Four to be revealed at Disney's Investor Day, this is just a fan cast of what I would personally do if I had the reins of the casting for this universe. The Fantastic Four are pretty awesome, which is really unfortunate given their track record when it comes to the big screen. I will talk more about that stuff as we get to the character breakdowns. I would like to make it clear that I believe that the Fantastic Four should be younger compared to the Avengers that we've had, and that their origin should take place anytime after the blip. Because if that were to be the case, then we have 4 superheroes not being around during the attack by Thanos, and it would be unnecessary just to bring up that problem. So with that cleared up, on to the Rocket Grimm. Also, thank you to Lucas Sosa for suggesting the video idea. Also, credit to the fan art used in the video and in the description down below.
No, Vic, it's clobbering time. Damn, I've been waiting to do that.
The orange rock monster of the Fantastic Four, Ben Grimm has had a lot to endure during his life. He grew up in poverty on Yancey Street on Manhattan's Lower East Side to Jewish parents Daniel and Elsie Grimm. His father had a tough time getting jobs due to being an alcoholic, so they had to rely on Ben's older brother, Daniel Grimm Jr., who was the head of a Yancey Street gang, to get money for foods and bills. His brother was killed in a gang war, which would put Ben in the position as the leader of the gang some years later. After his parents passed away, he would move in with his uncle Jacob, someone who came from the streets himself, to become a physician. He showed Ben that there was a path for him outside of the neighborhoods without violence and crime. Ben left the gang, went to school, and got a football scholarship to Empire State University, where he would meet Reed Richards and Victor Von Doom. A quick pause in the backstory. Legendary comic artist, writer, and editor Jack Kirby is what Ben is reflected on with Jack's upbringing. Both were sons of Jewish parents, born on the Lower East Side of Manhattan. Jack would help his poor family by going on the streets, mainly Delancey Street, phonetically similar with Ben on Yancey Street. Jack's brother David would be attacked by rival gang members. Both are also known for their gruff exterior, fighting spirit, cigar puffing, poker playing, and their lovable nature. Thank you to JLS Comics for that fun fact. Link in the description to his channel if you like learning about the histories of comics and things of that nature. Back to Ben. Reed told Ben that his intention was to build a starship for interstellar travel, which Ben jokingly promised that he would pilot that starship if Reed ever built it. Ben would graduate, go into the U.S. Air Force, and become a highly skilled fighter pilot, as well as a test pilot and an astronaut. In that time, Reed went ahead with his project and built the starship and reminded Ben of his promise. Ben would serve as the pilot in Reed's starship. Unfortunately, due to Reed's miscalculations on proper shielding for the starship, Ben, along with the rest of what will be the Fantastic Four, would get washed over by cosmic radiation. Back on Earth, Ben was transformed into the orange-colored, thick-skinned, heavily muscled, and superhumanly being dubbed as the Thing. Ben definitely gets the short end of the stick, as his friends are able to turn their powers on and off, which he is unable to do. While he's had moments of crippling self-doubt and loathing, he doesn't allow that to define him. He can get stubborn and hot-tempered at times, but he's also very determined, brave, and never backs down from a fight. His showdowns with the Hulk and the Champion are prime examples of his drive. He also married his longtime girlfriend, Alicia Masters, who I will talk about another time. And we can't forget the iconic "It's Clobbering Time." Although given how much of a meme "It's Morbin Time" is at this point, as well as Marvel doing these types of jokes where if something from the comics happens, it would be considered as "that's lame," I can't say that there's high faith in this happening now. As you can see, Benji has a lot to his character. I've been drawn to Jason Segel as this choice. I think when it comes down to describing Ben Grimm with regards to Jason, he is able to get the warm, kind-hearted element that Ben shows, particularly as Uncle Ben, to Franklin and Valeria Richards, as well as Alicia. His character, Marshall Erickson in How I Met Your Mother, as well as Gary in the Muppets movie, captures that part of Grimm really well. The other elements are what I tend to see some pushback on. I would recommend The End of the Tour with Jesse Eisenberg and Windfall with Jesse Plemons and Lily Collins to see those aspects of Jason's acting. The End of the Tour puts Jason in a more introspective position, and Windfall highlights elements of being tough while also dealing with self-doubt. These elements would work well as a Ben Grimm. As for the Yancey Street accent, he is a comedian, so that isn't too much to ask out of him. Also, he is Jewish like the character, so there's that as well, if anyone was wondering.
You okay?
Yeah, I think.
The Invisible Woman and her younger brother Johnny Storm lived a pretty normal life in Long Island until tragedy occurred when their mother was in a car accident. Their father, Dr. Franklin Storm, tried to save his wife, but he failed to do so. This put their father in a position into a Great Depression, causing him to drink and gamble away his family fortune. It got to the point where he was borrowing money from a loan shark, which led to threats to kill him and his children when payments weren't made on time. A scuffle happens which ended with the loan shark accidentally getting himself shot. Their father was charged with manslaughter. With this, plus the death of his wife and not wanting his children to do anything with him, he chose not to say anything in his defense, which made his sentence for 20 years to life imprisonment. Franklin made sure to tell Sue to not visit him in prison and just tell Johnny that he's dead. These series of events put Sue in a position where she had to be a sister and a technical mother to Johnny at such a young age. Sue and Johnny were sent to live with their aunt. She met Reed and fell in love with him. She and Johnny would move to California, where she would pursue acting while Reed was completing his work on the Starship. Sue, along with her brother, went on the space expedition. Under the cosmic rays, Sue, the woman that wants to be seen, got the powers to be invisible and referred to herself as Invisible Girl. She wouldn't become Invisible Woman until down the line, when the villain, Psycho Man, amplified her fragile self-control and negative emotions to become Malice. Basically, Invisible Girl with no restraints. This would have lasting effects that would affect her psyche moving forward, as she also changed her name to Invisible Woman. As for Sue's journey from the beginning, she did have powers, but it wasn't particularly useful when battling supervillains. She spent most of her time keeping the team together, given that Reed spent long hours in his lab, Ben moping around over his looks, and Johnny being young and naive. Arguments were common, and Sue would be helpful in de-escalating these situations to avoid breakups. She'd also have a lot to endure giving birth to Franklin Richards, named after her father, and one of the most powerful beings in the Marvel Universe. She eventually got the power to turn other objects invisible and project and manipulate force fields. I'd say that the John Burns run from the 80s onwards is where we get more of the Sue that we're accustomed to, with her learning more ways to use her powers on the offense side, being more active with the team, as well as being an effective leader when she needs to step up. Sue is a difficult person to cast given that there's a lot of options that can work well with what she provides as a character. A woman that is so focused on the well-being of others to the point where she barely thinks about herself. Shout out AGD. If I was going to put my foot down on an option, I would have Lily James. Cinderella herself is quite the talent, as well as the looker. She's able to cover the highlights of Sue that I'm looking for, the earlier elements of being an aspiring actress, who she is able to draw from her own personal life, her combat experience in things like Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, although there would be times where there's more reliance on hand choreography similar to Wanda. You've got dealing with the adversity of siblings with different personalities like in Cinderella, her taking care of a child in the Potato Peel Pie Society, it's a very long title, her dealing with stillborn in Pam and Tommy. Of course, there's Baby Driver, Mamma Mia, and Downton Abbey. While there's other options that could be Sue, Lily is up there.
Let's see how Leadfoot likes a hot foot. You've got some hot moves, Karnak, but mine are smoking.
The hothead Johnny Storm is the younger brother of Sue Storm. We've talked about their father and how his actions put Sue in a position of playing as a mother and sister for Johnny at such a young age. Growing up in suburban Glenville, Johnny always had a thirst for adventure, and he was drawn to cars despite his mother's death in a car accident. He pursued interest as a mechanic at a young age. He's also known for some brash and impulsive behavior, hence the nickname Hothead. His effect of the cosmic radiation had his body turn into a fiery plasma, which he named himself the Human Torch as a tribute to the World War II hero of the same name, Jim Hammond. Johnny would try to maintain a secret identity, but given the status of the Fantastic Four, that didn't last too long. Johnny being young and reckless had led to some stressful times, particularly for Ben given that Johnny would mess with him. Johnny has had moments of leaving the team and returning after cooling down from his own personal frustrations. He's usually the first person to dive into the battle or try to make wrongs right. If his friends and family are threatened, particularly Sue, he'd lose control. Over the years, Johnny has made the effort in taking things more seriously, especially his experience in the Negative Zone, where he sacrificed himself to Annihilus and his endless insectoid army so that his friends could make it. Also similar to The Thing, he doesn't actually need to say flame on to turn on his powers, but he just does. No need to take that away from him. Now, Johnny was the key reason as to why I preferred the Fantastic Four to be younger in the MCU than the anticipated expectation. We'll get to Reed soon. Ideally, the idea is that you aim for the age around Ensign Mount's Black Bolt, which will be difficult to really justify a Fantastic Four team in the 40s and 50s range without it being possible that this team got their powers before the snap and blip, which would really hurt the world building. At least, rounding the age around one of Johnny's best friends, Spider-Man, has more leniency as to the team being more likely to occur after the blip, but it's still possible to fuck it up. We'll have to wait on that front. For this selection, I'll be talking about two options, both of which are in the similar age range with Tom Holland's Peter Parker and can be a younger brother to Lily James as Sue. There's been rumors that Rudy Pankow was the choice that Marvel was looking at for the Flame Brain, and I gotta say, I really like that choice as Johnny. Not just because he's had experience acting with Tom Holland in Uncharted, but his role as JJ Maybank in Outer Banks is reminiscent of Johnny Storm. He's reckless, yet a loyal best friend to the main character. He can get feisty and quick-tempered, but he's up for a laugh and have a great sense of adventure. If I wanted to be different from what is rumored, Gage Munro would be my pick. He played the son to Bob Odenkirk's character in Nobody, a physically fit kid that gets aggressive when something goes wrong, also having anger at his father when he's being passive. He's also been a kid that's been a leader to a group of kids in I Declare War, where he was put into a confliction if he wanted to win the game of Capture the Flag, or to save his best friend that was being held pretend hostage. Gage does have the talent in voice acting, which will be beneficial when Johnny is in the Human Torch mode, as those moments would require CGI. I think he would do well in the role as well. The smartest man in the Marvel Universe, most of the time.
Black Bolt could destroy you with one whisper from his mouth.
What mouth?
Son of Nathaniel Richards, Reed was a child prodigy devoting a great amount of time in developing that intelligence, particularly in subjects like mathematics, physics, and engineering. He entered into Caltech at the age of 14. He also went to Harvard, MIT, and studied abroad at the University of Vienna. By the time he was 18, he has received 4 degrees in engineering, math, and physics. He went to Empire State University for his 5th degree. There he met Victor Von Doom and Ben Grimm. Doom was obsessed with developing a machine that would project the astral form of a being into another dimension. Obviously, a sorcerer could do this with magic. Doom was trying to do this using technology. Reed was trying to explain the flaws in Doom's calculations, but Doom passed it off as Reed trying to upstage him. The machine exploded, which caused deformities to his face, which he blamed it on Reed. Doom was expelled for conducting unethical experiments, whereas Reed and his new friend Ben would go their own way. We talked about Reed's desire to build a starship. Due to the government cutting the fundings to the starship, Reed wanted to sneak onto the ship during that time. The guards were swapping positions. When the ship passed through the unexpected amount of cosmic radiation, Reed was given the powers of being malleable at will. Reed believes that the cosmic rays also increased his intelligence at a much higher level as well. He would take the title of Mr. Fantastic and create the Fantastic Four. Typically, Richard's patents and royalties are what funded the team's activities. When it comes to Reed's part on the Fantastic Four, we've hinted at it before. He was engrossed in the scientific progress. He's always looking for a way to keep him busy, inventing things for the betterment of society, albeit in neglecting his wife on multiple occasions. He's made things for the team such as the uniforms, which are made of unstable molecules that would allow his suit to stretch when he does. Johnny's costume doesn't burn when he's the Human Torch, and Sue's costume becomes invisible when she does. As a leader in combat, he prefers to examine his foes and see if there is a possible way to negotiate with them before actually fighting them. Oftentimes when there's a problem, Reed would get engrossed in the scientific implications of the problem to the point where he would forget that there's a problem in the first place. Reed's superintelligence has been put in difficult situations at times given that he'd get stuck on thinking about something in the logic department, but little to no effort on the moral department. Particularly with Sue, which they have experienced splits before. He's had moments of depression and self-hatred over the long-standing unsolved problems, mainly having to do with Ben's inability to return back to his human form and his son Franklin's potential with his powers. Something I would like to address before I get to the selection is that there are some elements of Reed that I would not like to see adapted, especially anything that would have to do with Planet World War Hulk and Civil War, because, yeah, those Reeds sucked, long story short. Sure, his intelligence has been in the way, leading to some dickish moments, but safe to say, there's a line. Now for the elephant in the room. John Krasinski portrayed the character in Doctor Strange Into the Multiverse of Madness as a member of the Illuminati in Earth 838. I wish he had a better opportunity to be the character, but there was just a lot of things holding him back. I'm going under the assumption that this was a one-time thing, and that he is not going to be the mainline Reed Richards. Fuck calling the MCU Earth 616, by the way. And besides, his Reed would be too old for what I'm looking for. Reed's been given a lot of names for the last few years, and one that sticks out to me is Ethan Peck. Grandson to the legendary Gregory Peck, Ethan is best known for his role as Spock in the newer era of Star Trek. Not a Trekkie myself, I've only seen some of it.
Ortegas, plot a course to take us close to the event horizon. Hemmer, you and the cadet have access to EV suits?
We do, sir. I hesitate to ask why.
You're going to slingshot off the black hole and drop the AP-350 as a decoy.
You what? That's not how the black hole works.
I do like Ethan in the role. He's able to present himself in a serious manner. I believe him when he talks like a genius. The voice is a bit deep for what I'm imagining, but Ethan on his own isn't like that, which works out better. In Penny Dreadful City of Angels, he plays a second-in-command that's known for some heated rhetoric and tension with the leader of the group. He's also voiced Reed Richards in the Marvel's podcast, which is pretty cool. Pair him up with Lily James, Gage Munro, or Rudy Pankow, and Jason Segel, and you've got my Fantastic Four. And that concludes the FanCast for the Fantastic Four. Let me know in the comments down below on what you think about this list. Anything you agree with? Anything I changed your mind on? Anything that you completely disagree with? I'd like to know your personal FanCast in the description down below. Also, let me know what other FanCasts you would like to see out of me. Also, thank you to Unity Reviews and Analysis for helping out this video. Link to his channel in the description down below. If you like reviews and opinions on movies, comics, TV shows, and video games, you can subscribe to my channel, Red Devilos Reviews, for more of that content. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you soon. Peace.